would go through periods where they weren't the best made bells.
Okay.
So the Pennsylvania Assembly wants a top-notch bell, and they order one for the bell tower of their state house. They're finally putting a tower in and finishing their state house. But the bell they order is broken almost immediately.
Oh.
So while they try to either get a refund or a replacement bell sent from the foundry in England, they end up having to, swallow their pride and pay for a new one. They also hired two local metal workers, John Pass and John Stowe, to melt down that broken bell and make a new one.
Okay.
And since it was obvious that the composition of the metal was definitely a factor leading to the bell falling to pieces in the first place, they also try to improve it, adding more bronze and some other things to the mixture. The issue, though, is that the bell they made sounded terrible. So they had to melt that one down and try again with this one here.
Oh.
By that point, it's 1753. It's about 2 years after the original bell had been ordered by the Pennsylvania Assembly. Nobody's impressed with the way this one sounds, but that replacement bell ordered from England shows up. It sounded, quote, no better. So they decided that they were going to use both bells. They rigged up a clock for that new bell, and the Pass and Stowe bell went into the tower. Because it was in the tower of the building at the time that the Declaration of Independence was adopted by the Second Continental Congress, this bell would, a couple generations later, be associated with the American Revolution, with the cause of liberty, with the cause of freedom. However, there's a bit of a contradiction here. This inscription around the top reads, "To proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof." And that's from the book of Leviticus in the Bible, where it describes an ancient Israelite tradition called the Jubilee. Now, as part of the Jubilee, every 50 years when the Jubilee happened, slaves would be freed. And in the United States, in the 1830s, when abolitionists are looking at that inscription on the bell and drawing attention to it, slavery is very much legal in the United States. Millions of African Americans are held in bondage as legal property of other people. So, abolitionists fighting slavery thought it was inappropriate to use this bell as a symbol of freedom and liberty when that was a struggle but half achieved during the Revolution, if even half achieved. So they started calling this bell the Liberty Bell. And in doing so, it began to acquire a new meaning as a symbol not just of this fight for American freedom and independence and the liberty of those living here, but to fully realize that that's not a promise just meant for a section of the population. After all, at this point, only white men who own sufficient property can vote, although in the 1830s that would then go to all white men. So, abolitionists called it the Liberty Bell and used it as a symbol of their cause. During the era where women's suffrage, women pushing for the right to vote, was becoming a growing political movement, women suffragists made a replica of the bell, to which they added the inscription "Establish Justice," because you didn't really need to mention that the bell was by order of the Assembly of the Province of Pennsylvania when that particular bell was not. In order to say that liberty in America cannot be achieved when half the population on reaching adulthood was still locked out from participation in governance and from even voting. During the 1960s, although slavery had been outlawed, Jim Crow laws had led to disenfranchisement of almost the entirety of the African American population, especially in the South. People protesting for the right to vote in Alabama by walking down the roads and crossing bridges, which caused their temporary blockage during these marches, were beaten by the police and National Guard as they went to exercise their rights and demand the right to vote. Well, here in Philadelphia, students from the universities had a sit-in around the bell, where they handed out pamphlets calling attention to the brutal attack on protesters in Selma in Alabama, and also mentioned that this bell, as a symbol of the struggle for freedom, would continue to be used for this cause. And they wouldn't let anyone come up and touch the bell during this time as they were staging this protest. By the way, back then Rangers did allow people to touch the bell. Don't even ask, because now the answer is very much no.
Is the wood original?
We don't know if it is or is not.
It looks very old. But
Oh, it is certainly very old. I believe it's from the 1750s, but I forget where I got that information. It's just floating in the back of my head.
What is that on the corner there? Is that
That's a data logger. It measures temperature and humidity. But anyway, to wrap this all up, the bell is not just a symbol of an event that happened in the past. It's a symbol of a struggle for freedom and liberty that's still being fought now as much as it was in the 1760s when Americans began to object to the fact that the British government reserved the right to make laws for the colonies. So we still see movements to this day, things we read about in the news, as people continue to say some people have been unfairly treated for centuries since the country was founded, sometimes till the present day, and that this struggle for liberty is still ongoing. The struggle for fairness and freedom is something that still occurs. So as you leave here today, I would like you to ask yourselves, what do freedom and liberty mean to you? And what can you do to ensure that freedom and liberty will be guaranteed, not just for yourself, but for others who still struggle for it? All right, everyone, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Feel free to come on up and ask questions.
Thank you.
And of course, a shout out to my lovely co-star, the Liberty Bell.
I have a question. Is this the wood original?
We don't know. I want to say it's from the 1750s, but I'm not sure where I got that information. I think someone just told me that, and I never actually double checked.
Do you know what the email is made from?
Yes, it's mostly bronze, which is an alloy of copper and tin. But there's some other stuff in there. A little bit of silver, a little bit of arsenic, a little bit of lead.
Did a letter go between the M and D?
I'm sorry?
Did a letter go between the MD on the bottom?
Between the what?
The MD.
No. You can see the end's been cut off.